What am I so desperately trying to control? That is a question that I ask myself when I realize I'm trying to control something in my life. My name is Shauna. I am in recovery from compulsive controlling behavior. I am not enrolled in any program that I can share with you. This is something that I've recognized in myself and I have begun to heal from and recover from through my own processes that I've developed for myself. I have spent all of my adult life controlling my environment, situations, and the people in it. No, I'm not happy about this, but I am happy that I'm in recovery and that I'm doing something about it. I have been controlling, manipulative, rigid, dominating, insensitive, ego-driven, full of masculine energy, brute force yang energy, as a way of getting my needs met. Now, this compulsive controlling behavior, any controlling behavior, is rooted in fear. It's also rooted in wounds and childhood trauma. And for me, I want to say it's also a learned behavior. Not going to get into that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. When I am micromanaging, it is because I'm searching for security and certainty. So that's one question that I ask myself. What am I so desperately trying to control? And this is what I wanted to talk about for just a couple of minutes today. The idea of recovering from a controlling behavior. So maybe you're a woman watching right now, and some of this is beginning to ring true for you. The whole shift and transformation and developing this process for myself began with a situation that was like a volcanic eruption. And it took me about a week and a half to 2 weeks before I was able to look at myself. I was so ego-driven. I was the victim and I remained in that victim energy, that victim mentality for a week and a half. Then little bits of light started to come in, and I allowed myself to look at myself. That's when the shift began for me. That's when I started to make promises to myself, give permission to myself, set intentions, and began the work, if you will, even though I don't like that word, of transforming this dysfunctional behavior. So are you someone who is controlling? This is the first step, that willingness to speak these truths to yourself. Do you have the tendency to control your environment, control situations, control people around you? Let that be your first step. It's safe for you to look at your own darkness. And that's what this is. This is shadow work. This is you and your willingness to look at patterns of behavior that are no longer for your highest good and your greatest joy, and that are destructive in some way. And this is something that I always encourage my coaching clients to do, and we do together, is let's look at your patterns of behavior. Let's look at the outcome. I talk about this all the time. So for me, the outcome was a strained relationship, not talking to someone for a week. And I want to go into my inner child, but I'm going to save that for another conversation. But I looked at that behavior and I realized that I don't want to engage in that behavior anymore. I'm 56 years old. I've been doing this for, like I said, my entire adult life. But now I'm like, yeah, no, I'm done. Like my consciousness is rising and I am being the person that I prefer to be. And this was a big obstacle that was in my way that I want to say unfortunately, but I'm going to say fortunately showed up in a way that was so disruptive and hurtful and woke me up to this pattern of behavior. So I began to look at it, those beams of light, those rays of light started to come through, and I began to get honest with myself. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Speak that truth to yourself. Yes, I can be a controlling bitch. Yes, I am manipulative in getting my needs met. Yes, I can be insensitive. I always put my own needs first, and I'm insensitive to the needs of others. Yes, I try to control what this person does and what this person says, and I try to control my environment, make sure it's perfect and everything is just the way it should be. And does it sound familiar? Can you tell yourself with honesty that you have a compulsive controlling behavior? And it's okay if you do. It really is. Love yourself. You are this and that. You are light and dark. In looking at your behaviors, this controlling behavior, you're looking at your darkness. You are, in a sense, embracing it for what it is, and you are bringing it out into the light. And it can be done at a pace and in a place and at a pace. Did I say that already? That's right for you. So that first step is admitting to yourself, I have a controlling behavior. I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to transform it, but I'm willing to. Let your willingness carry you. The next step is then being in a practice of recognizing when you're in a controlling behavior. Personally, for me, it happens so quickly. It's just, I hate saying this, but it's like part of who I am because it's become so familiar that I've thought, this is who I am. I have this really dominant energy and this is who I am. No, it's not who I am. Not at my core, it's not. It's a facade. It is a mask that I've been wearing to hide the pain that I'm afraid to be overwhelmed by. Controlling behavior is rooted in fear. When I am micromanaging, when you are micromanaging, you are searching for security and certainty. So then, as I was saying, it gets to that point where the practice is, am I trying to control this? Am I trying to control this person? Am I trying to control my environment right now? Am I trying to control this situation? That in itself is a practice. It's that idea of stopping and going inward and asking, ooh, am I in a controlling behavior right now? And for me, 99% of the time, the answer was, yes, you are. But that was another great gateway. It was like another door that opened up for me, where then I began to recognize how often I slipped into this pattern of behavior. And let me tell you, it was often. The next step for me in my personal process, after I was honest with myself about who I have been from my adult life, then it was, am I trying to control? It was that awareness of, in these situations, yes, I'm in my controlling behavior. And then the next step was asking myself, what am I trying to control here? And what am I afraid might happen if I let go of control? When I first started asking myself that question, nothing came up. I think I was in complete resistance to any answer emerging from within me because my ego was trying to do everything it could to maintain control of whatever situation. So I would ask, what am I afraid might happen if I let go of control? And it was like, no, you can't let go of control. Maintain your control. For someone like me, and maybe someone like you, that question can be terrifying. We don't know, or we don't remember what it's like to yield, to go with the flow, to let someone else take control, to let someone else decide or make their own decisions for themselves, to let the situation unfold naturally and organically. That can be terrifying for someone like me and maybe someone like you. But I kept asking. And it wasn't long before the answers started to emerge. And you know why? Because I wanted to know the answers. I allowed myself to simply be curious. I wasn't trying to control or manage or change or fix. I simply approached each situation with curiosity. What am I afraid might happen if I let go of control? The answers started to emerge. And when the answers began to surface and emerge from within me, I held it all. I created a container for it. I didn't judge it. I didn't criticize it. I simply witnessed it. I was with it. I allowed myself to sit with it, if you will. And oftentimes what would happen is as an answer surfaced or emerged, I would be curious about that. And I would let that take me somewhere else. It might take me to another aha moment or another answer or another question. Often it took me to childhood because it's all connected. The idea of a compulsive controlling behavior is rooted in, as I said, fear, but it's rooted in childhood wounds and childhood trauma. For me personally, it's also a learned behavior. That's another conversation, but I watched my parents, and that controlling behavior was something that was front and center a lot. And I'm not entering a pity party for my childhood or anything, but I really did not have the opportunity to make choices for myself. That wasn't available to me. So it's no wonder that as I moved into adulthood and I moved out of my childhood home, I embraced the idea of controlling everything around me. So those answers would emerge and I would be with them. I would follow them. I would make more discoveries. And it was beautiful. It's been very healing. So it's the idea of speaking honest truths to yourself about your pattern of behavior. This is something that I encourage my coaching clients to do on their own, and we do together, is let's look at your behaviors, the outcome of your behaviors that are not in alignment with the person you prefer to be. I do not prefer to be a controlling person anymore. I'm ready to yield. I'm ready to soften. I'm ready to allow more feminine energy to rise within me, to find balance between the feminine and the masculine. That's what I'm looking to do. It's It's territory I've never been in. It's a comfort zone I've never created for myself. It's very unfamiliar. But the more I'm in the practice and the deeper I go in my recovery, the more familiar it gets, because I'm recognizing the fears that are trying to get me to hold on to the idea that I need to control everything about my life. So I spoke those truths to myself. This is how I would describe myself. These are my characteristics. These are my traits. And then I would look at these behaviors and these outcomes. Me having to apologize again for my behavior, hoping and praying that the person that I was apologizing to again would forgive me again. And I thought to myself, how much longer are these people or this person going to say, I accept your apology? There was an actual fear that, like, this was it. This was it. This is the last time I'm going to be able to apologize. My apology is not going to be accepted, and I'm screwed. But thankfully it was, which opened up the opportunity for me to heal this. So it's speaking those truths to yourself first. And then beginning the practice of recognizing by asking yourself, when you're in the behavior, am I trying to control this situation? Am I trying to control this person? Am I trying to control my environment? And if the answer is yes, if you're really honest with yourself, then you can move to, what am I so desperately trying to control? And then another question you can ask is, what am I afraid might happen if I let go of control? And allow those answers to bubble up from within you. Don't distract yourself. Don't run away. Don't ignore it. Be with it. Come back home to yourself. And I promise you that if you are serious about transforming your behaviors, your patterns and behaviors, if you're serious about recovering from your own compulsive controlling behavior, if you start doing these things, being curious, speaking the truth to yourself, living in questions, and then being willing to transform it, you will see a difference. Your life will change for the better. I am living proof of it. I'm not done. I mean, this is something, personally, I think this is something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life, this idea of being mindful and very conscious of slipping back into the pattern. Think about anyone who is recovering from addiction. It's not like someone who's been an alcoholic for their whole life can just flip a switch and say, oh, I'm not an alcoholic anymore, and I don't even think about alcohol, and I can go into a bar and I can go out with friends and I don't have a problem at all. Someone who smokes cigarettes, quit smoking cigarettes. Someone who is recovering from an eating disorder. It's the same thing. It's the idea of being conscious of it and reminding myself, I'm willing to change. I want to change. I want to transform this behavior. And I want to be the person I prefer to be, which gives me the opportunity to deepen the connections and the relationships in my life and create the life that I really want to create. It takes steps. Alcoholics Anonymous, steps. And these are just a couple of the steps that I created for myself that have worked for me that I share with you today. in peace and in love and in light.